When it comes to the excavation for a rain garden, what we do is we set aside the top layer of the soil just under the grass, first 6 inches or so. It's a really nice, high-quality topsoil. We set that aside, and once we dig a little bit deeper into the more clay-based soil, we set that into a different pile, and that gets hauled away. The good premium topsoil on top is used for the backfill.
The first step for the garden is excavation. We're aiming for 6 inches of ponding depth and 18 inches of bioretention mix. This will result in 24 inches of water-holding garden. The 6 inches of ponding depth is a void space, so that's going to be a dip at the top of the garden. 18 inches of bioretention, that's a mix of compost, sand, and existing soil. So you have to excavate enough soil to add in that compost and sand and not kind of fill up the garden too much. We're not digging it down to 2 feet deep, but we will be turning up and mixing the soil all the way down to 2 feet deep. So at this point, we're going to start putting in a berm. The idea behind the berm is to level out the top of the garden so water isn't flowing out from one side, it's all kind of level. The garden is pretty close to level already. There's a little bit of a low side in this corner down here, so we're going to build up the berm. It's being packed soil from the garden. The taller your berm is, the wider it's going to need to be. In this case, we're looking at a 1 to 2 inch berm, so it really doesn't have to be more than like 3 inches wide. If you start getting up to 6, 7, 8 inches, you're talking about a really wide berm. So be careful about the slope that you're putting your garden on, because you don't want to have to build up a massive berm. So the next step for the rain garden is to get the trench from the downspout here into the garden. It's really important to have that going downhill. That way water doesn't come back up and overflow by your foundation. You want like a 2% grade from the house to the rain garden. You can kind of artificially make that by making the trench deeper. Or if the slope is naturally there already, that's perfect. You just run at the same level, a little bit below ground. We usually take out the grass first so we can put that back down on top of the pipe. That way it looks all seamless, nice and smooth. You don't have to worry about putting grass seed in and refilling it. Other steps, you want to backfill with soil all around the pipe. We usually use corrugated pipe or PVC, but you want to backfill with soil to make sure any water that gets down in there doesn't wash away soil on either side of the pipe. So you really want to pack that in, make sure it's nice and secure around the pipe. PVC versus corrugated pipe, both are fine. If you're worried about foot traffic or a driveway over it, you definitely have to use PVC. If the slope is less than a 2% grade, PVC can help that water flow more easily rather than the corrugated where it'll get caught into like dips and crevices in that. If you've got a really long downspout, which we don't here, fortunately, you can use perforated corrugated piping. That way water will soak out as it travels. It's a little more complicated. You have to put gravel around it. We're not going to deal with that today, but it is an option. So this is a spillway. A spillway is constructed of rocks. It's placed in front of the inlet. The idea is to prevent water that's flowing down here from getting too much volume, too much speed, and washing away your mulch, creating erosion. So we put some rocks in front of it to slow it down. On the other end of the garden, over here, we have an outlet. This is just the opposite of the inlet. The water's going to fill up, and at some point it will flow over out of here. These stones are going to keep the mulch in the garden, keep any debris that picks up with that water in here and not in your yard. Once the rain garden is installed, you got to start thinking about maintenance. The first year of maintenance is the most important because that's when the soil's nice and loose. All the weeds are going to try to start growing in there. The plants are kind of young. So you need to make a watering schedule. You want to be watering 2 to 3 times a week in the summer, maybe more if it's really hot drought conditions. Definitely want to be keeping an eye on the weeds, especially if you have English ivy, bamboo, or any other aggressive invasives in the area. They will migrate straight to that rain garden, so really stay on top of that early. It takes about 3 years for a rain garden like this to fully establish and get to the point where it's completely covered in plants. But at that point, the maintenance is much easier. You don't need to worry about picking weeds out of it because the natives are shading it all out. You're only worried about mulching the edges.